All right, of course, and with that, we'd like to move on to the interview that we've been waiting for. Remember, tonight we are going to be discussing the hits and misses, that is, of the Africa Climate Summit that was held in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. And of course, with me, I'm going to be having Juliet Oluoch, founder of Ufanisi Research Network, as well as Koel Monaheng from South Africa, but he'll be on live Zoom from Zanzibar, Tanzania. So we're going to be having this very interesting conversation, and we are going to be talking about what Africa really hopes to gain from this year's COP30. So I'd like to welcome my first guest in studio, Juliet Oluoch, founder of Ufanisi Research Network.
Thank you so much, Shix. Thanks for having me.
How are you today? And how was the Africa Climate Summit to start off with?
Yeah, I mean, this summit was different, to say. At least for the first time, I saw a situation where Africa was not positioning herself as this vulnerable, independent continent.
Okay.
But we were positioning ourselves as drivers of climate innovation and the change that we actually want to see. Aside from that, there were also really commendable deals based off of what we heard from the Nairobi Declaration, which is a step towards the right direction, even as we head towards COP30 in Belém.
In fact, maybe you can break down what exactly the Nairobi Declaration was, and maybe you can analyze it further for people who are watching at home who don't really understand that. So maybe you'd be the right person to break it down for us.
Absolutely. So, of course, the Nairobi Declaration was from the first Africa Climate Summit.
Okay.
The first of its kind gathering where we had different heads of states and Africans coming together to chart a way forward towards COP28 at the time. And so with the Nairobi Declaration, we had several things coming up. For example, there was the need to strengthen our clean cooking, which was a relatively new technology as Africa tries to shift away from, cooking using what we would call unclean technology in layman's language. That's the traditional forms of cooking in Africa. But we also saw initiatives like now building our production of green hydrogen, and also the most contentious issue around the global carbon tax. Questions around how to go about this as Africa coming up.
Okay. All right. Now, Juliet, what were some of the highlights for you personally? You have been attending multiple of these summits, and you are quite an active member of the climate, of course, society in the country. You are somebody who has really been involved in COP as well. So maybe you can tell us more about what was your highlight from this particular summit.
For the Africa Climate Summit, number one was the Africa Youth Climate Assembly.
Okay.
I think for that, as a young person and to all young people, that was one of the major highlights, because at least during this summit, we get a chance to give our own declaration, which was luckily adopted from the time it was read. Again, we had some very path-breaking initiatives. For example, the government of Denmark pledging around $79 million to support agricultural transformation, and that for Kenya means a lot. As a country that is hugely dependent on agriculture, then it means we'll be able to get funding support for smallholder farmers, more investments going into climate smart agriculture. The other personal kind of highlight was seeing African financial institutions like the AFDB coming together to sign a landmark cooperation framework that will now operationalize the the Africa Green Industrialization Initiative, and this will go alongside the $100 billion that's already mobilized to support renewable energy, resources, and industries into climate smart growth for the continent.
All right, thank you very much. We'll get back to you, of course, as we continue having this conversation.